we are pushing the public and the government to give adequate reasons for their proposals, for their decisions made, so that people understand that yes, the budget is about trade-offs, but what are informing these trade-offs? Because how do we make decisions? If we both have good ideas and we still have scarce resources, one has to be taken, all right? Or a modified one has to be taken. How do we get there? We think we get there by sharing our justifications, sharing our reasoning, so that someone who hadn't seen your point of view can be able to understand. And even if they don't agree with you, they'll be agreeable because they now understand where you're coming from.
The reasons that are given during those forums, the reasons that are given as to why people think certain priorities are what we should go for, then it needs to be very strong. It needs to be where we really put the case that we as a county, we as a department at the national level are going for these priorities, and this is the reasons why. So in these forums, one of the reasons why we wanted to have this as a key part and really an expanded part in the second phase was to kind of almost prime the guys in the room that it's good to ask for things, but it's important to justify why you want those things. If you can't justify why you want those things, then the next person will not understand why what you're asking for is important.
Each group had its own discussion and came up with their own agreement and their own 3 reasons as to why that agreement was what was the best according to their discussion. Each representative from each group will come and present to us their division, how they shared the money between the 2 sectors, and their 3 reasons. So as they are doing that, so let's assume group 1 is doing that. All of us in our little marking scheme, we will rank the reasons they give based on how important we feel they are. What exactly is an adequate reason? Is it the one that gives you a comparison between 2 things? Is it one that uses numbers? So they're able to say, oh, you know, we did this because 20% of people here are poor. Just rank them. In the form, you have that 3rd column that says, how would you rank these reasons? Between 1 and 5. With 5 being completely adequate and 1 being completely inadequate. But at the end of the day is that we want to use those reasons that will be given by the different groups to make one final decision as a group of 20. Group gani wanataka kwenda wa kwanza?
We at least raise on social protection to 30% and then have governance, justice, law and order at 70%. Reason number 1, when we increase that on social protection, we are likely to decrease the crime rates. And once we decrease the crime rates, the proportion we had taken from governance will be taken because crime itakuwa kidogo, kwa hivyo polisi will not need those equipments and whatever. Reason number 2, we need to focus on the less fortunate in our society, the street children, the people with disabilities. We need to bring them level with a common person. Reason number 3, there's this thing called dependency levels.
For GJLO, we gave 60%. For SPCR, 40%. The answers on the GJLO is, the GJLO has a lot of sectors, or MDS, which is it needs much attention for a country to have a just that means good governance. The absorption rate, you find that the GJLO absorption rate is 92% as compared to SPCR, which has less MDS, but the scope is that absorption scope is 89%. You find GJLO has a lot. It has about 14 MDS. I don't know 20 sub the others, as compared to the other one, which has only, I don't know, 9.
Social protection, culture and recreation 35%, and governance, justice, law and order 65%. We were, in our assessment of the discussion, we realized that with the strength and good governance, prevailing justice within law and order, certain aspect of social protection and culture and recreation become self-initiate for positive human development. Reason number 2, you realize, like for example, if you look at certain departments within
Social protection.
no, certain departments of social protection are duplication of what is happening in GJLO. Locations are low on certain departments of governance, GJLO, there's more reason for those commissions to adequate, because they could be underperformed because of inadequate funding. So for them to realize their mandates, and because, for example, if it is a commission that is supposed to come to the ground, talk to the people, and there is no funding enough to do that, they'll sit and wait if there is any money to be put to them. So those things lie just like that. So more funding needs to be given to them.
Drought and famine that we have, and nowadays even with the long rains, farmers cannot plan adequately for the planting season, so that anytime famine can strike, so these departments need more allocation so that they can be able to address such kind of challenges as they arise. The second reason why we have given this sector the huge allocation is the high cost of living. Remember, there was a cash transfer for the person with disability and for the elderly. I think they were being given 2,000 shillings per month, and with the high cost of living, seriously, that one cannot be enough. So the allocation that is being channeled to them should also go up. Yes, there are some departments in the governance, justice, and law and order that they have outlived their usefulness. Because like the ethics and anti-corruption, surely they are not doing much. They're just doing a lot of talking, but no actions. And yet again, the allocation is being given to them. The protection of human rights and promotion of human rights, again, they're being given allocation, nothing much from them. Yes, betting and control board, nothing much from them. Promotion of gender equality and freedom. Honestly, that one again, just taking money, nothing.
At the deliberative stage, I remember there were instances where there was a lot of counter-reasoning and counter-debating, where people were trying to give justifications for allocating certain amount of money to a project. And these are the kind of things that we need to expect in a deliberative session.
Think of the infrastructure taking in Kenya, like the Adequecy of Reasons. We are borrowing all the step from grass from Kenya. If we could have educated people in Kenya, we could have done that work. So what generally needs is that the net profit from that work is going to China instead of coming to our country. Mambo mwanzo wa kila kitu ni knowledge. Then from knowledge,
if I can remember, since time we was, they've been educating. I mean, how many people have degrees? How many people have PhDs? But they're monopolies. But they are outside their farming. This raises a lot of concerns as to why, as a country, we are hiring experts from outside. Why? Because we are not fast in embracing our own. We are investing on an education system that is currently not helping us. Why do we have a large group of people coming out of school and they don't have employment? Two, they don't have a source of income that we can say that this one is what I went to school to do.
When you say we are educating and we have a graduate one or it pinches me. When I am seeing Chinese doing some work that they're supposed to be doing. So first of all, you have to address that. Why are we inviting experts to our country to do the work that we can be able to do? That the answer is we don't have those expertise. We have running people, but not expertise or people with expertise that is required. But when you see what is happening in our system, and especially the budgeting which is done here, whereby you get those young people who are supposed to be earning a lot of, who are supposed to be employed, they are given a very small proportion of the budget, and the bigger budget is being given to us. And I'm saying and still saying that we need more money in education and be focused as a country towards what we demand and what we require, so that we can utilize our young people and our expatriates in all the areas of our operations.
The system that is producing people who don't have a C+ in mathematics is the same. You want us to put all our money in it. So, for now, there's no point in this whatever I saw whereby we change our tactics in approaching education. It's the same system that is producing half-baked figures that you want us to put all our money there.
Nikki Berit, made in China, which is being sold here in Kenya. It's a cup. It is conversation oh, they are all made from China. Why?
So the point, Daniel, before you see,
So if we were educated enough, and when we mean about education, we should expand that. So we not only going to class and coming out of the class. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, there's something that we are missing that makes us import those from China. If we could have been learned people with understanding, people who knows how things are being made, we could have stopped buying from China and start making them in Kenya.
The varieties are not made in Kenya because of education. I'll tell you, you are absolutely wrong. Royco moved from Kenya to Egypt because one, there's no infrastructure, point number two, the energy is very high, they are not able to operate profitably. That is why we don't have those plastics in Kenya, because of the cost of energy and infrastructure, not education.
People given time and the right kind of information can actually contribute to a discussion.
The information that people must have access to, or the information that people should be aware of, or generally the knowledge people should have when they are walking into that room. So the learning phase that we had in our research this time round, and even in the first phase, is really one that goes for that. It's trying to get people to have an idea of what you're asking us to make a decision about two sectors, but what are these two sectors? What do these sectors do? What kind of struggles do these sectors have? What are the proposals that the government is putting across in terms of priorities within these two sectors? So the moment you think of giving people information, then you're giving them a better platform to have a discussion that is a bit more grown up. I want you, from your own judgment, because all of you are filling in, and a couple of us can speak to this so that we can decide where we think our weight lies. From the reasons that have been given and the different weights that you've given those reasons, what would you say is the most convincing of reasons that you have here and why? So that we can start seeing which option seems to have been the most supported by the most reasonable, the most adequate reasoning.
There was a good discovery by Group 4 in terms of seeing other opportunities for collecting revenue. Let me put it so. But now, the biggest question I have, and that makes me wonder why they give the governance bit of it 50%. I think the 50-50 is being clever, being good, nice, you know, so that if there is any... Being diplomatic. It is really diplomatic, playing safe, I don't know. Look at this thing critically. For the past, we promulgated the Constitution on 28th August 2010, and everyone was happy about the Constitution of Kenya. My point is this country can only be helped if we become honest. And that is why in Group 2 we were saying, why don't we even call for a referendum and disband all these things? Because we have already created another problem in the name of administrative secretary in the cabinet. That is money we are going to spend. Why are we creating more posts in the name of policing people who are political losers so that they can benefit themselves? So maybe if today we decided as Kenyans to say the truth, and the truth is, if Kithure Kindiki is saying that let's not bring development to opposition area, let's also not pay taxes. So that we can reason together on the table. So we will not be creating jobs for people. Area chiefs are defiling children, and this is a common fact. Why do we still want to protect them? Let's even remove, I'm seeing some point here about there will be no policemen if what happens. When taxpayers have social security, maybe we need to define social security with the taxpayers so that we don't need policemen. In Kenya, we must have policemen, but we need policemen who are disciplined. In fact, I was in a program on police reforms and we were saying, why don't we give the police house allowances? So that waishi na sisi pule ghetto, ambapo nikichapu hata yeye atandikwe na yeye pia feel venye iko. Si ati kuwa exclude elsewhere ati that is police quarters. Recently manyumba zimebomoka. But look at the amount of money put in the interior. Look at that budget, the amount of money put in the interior, which you cannot even account for. Nobody even gives a report out of it. So to me, these are questions that we need to ask very honestly and push this agenda so that we can create these reforms.
You said, I think you didn't get the point right. You said we're trying to play safe by balancing the two sectors, whereas we would need more policemen in a country like ours. And our argument actually was, if we are socially protected, I think, my dear Nora, you wrote it in such a way that George Collins comprehended it totally different. What we said is that in a society where we are socially protected, our culture is appreciated, and the recreation sector is a form of creating and tapping other sources of creating of employment. We'll be in a society where everyone is busy. We'll be in a society where vices are not much. They are either not practiced or they are not up there. So the need to have the police amongst us would not be a necessity. So it would balance. It's like kuziba ufa ndo usijenge ukuta. We took care of our people socially, so we don't get to have people in our correctional facilities. We don't get to have our correctional facilities staffed with people who have not gotten justice, neither prosecuted nor convicted. So we would curb some of these things. And on the issue of, he talked about, actually that was not a question, creation of, he was appreciating us for having come up with other ways of funding.
All right, so the point I was making, and I think when I was walking around, I spoke to Group 2 on this. And I want to throw it as the rest of us also, as Helen speaks to the point that George has raised. Now, the point that Felix has read around how much of the sector is recurrent in a sector where the biggest chunk of the budget goes to the police, right? And the biggest chunk of the policing service basically goes to salaries. So as all of us who are working on our sectors and thinking about these sectors, and now we are thinking a little bit more about where we put more weight, are we a little bit worried that if we cut too much of the money that is going to governance, justice, law and order, we'll actually cut the salaries that go to police? It will be nice to hear what Group 4 thought about so that they go to the 50. I think what George is challenging is by just sitting at 50-50 are you not really compromising in a situation where you would have actually made a certain priority decision, right?
Yes. The issues with absorption rate and performance of GJ law. So I took this as an adequate issue because GJ law has got a lot of issues to do with justice and trust. So if they performed with 92% the way we rated it, and the other one at 89%, so I saw that this one is a good reason to give it a priority.
The mainstream justice, I think it was mentioned by group 3.
Group 3,
Yes. Yeah, mainstream justice. I also considered it adequate because the scope of crime, and then the how do you call it? The criminal justice system process. All those issues related to crime, including corruption and all those things. And you have seen all those factors in terms of, and when you talk about the mainstream justice and our criminal justice system include correctional facilities, includes the High Court, include the commissions on anti-corruption, then it includes so many things. So I thought that this one should be, I considered it adequate, and the fact that the group 3 mentioned it, I thought that is how I would grade it.
Because like the Gender Promotion, Equality and Freedom Discrimination maybe Commission, there's nothing much they're doing.
So my point is, how much savings will we be making if we scrap them off?
One, ethics and anti-corruption, which takes 3 billion. Yes?
So that's 3 billion,
Promotion of gender and equality, promotion of gender equality and freedom from discrimination 0.4 billion.
So we have 3.4 billion.
Protection and promotion of human rights, which actually, if you look at it in total, there isn't much that is being done.
One thing which group 1 mentioned, but it's not written there, that maybe when government puts a lot of money to social protection, culture and reaction sectors, it can help a lot than putting a lot of money in justice, whatever. When a good budget is put in social protection, and for example, the Department of Sport used to bring people together, and people learn their culture, people appreciate one another. But by that time, these criminal activities, they are very minimized. Since the government declined from putting a lot of money in this social protection, and so government decided to form a lot of inquiry. Why do we form inquiry? We form inquiry because of a lot of criminal activities, which can be minimized on the other side.
Public participation needs to be seen more in a long-term perspective and an empowerment agenda, so that you don't go and tell people what give civic education sessions there and come and ask people here. There's a way in which the two, as we demonstrated, is that when people are given a chance to learn, to understand, to know, even as basic as who is responsible for what services, and what do those services entail, how much was allocated in the past, how much has been spent, how has it been spent. I think all those are amazing opportunities, and that's what we shared, for instance, in the memorandum that we sent to Parliament. We say this is what we have been doing, and we think that if you can localize these conversations, then you are likely to make some great progress.